Imagine building your dream home, only to have your neighbor show up waving a manila folder and yelling,
"You've got 30 days to move your house off my land, or I'll tear it down myself."
Sounds insane, right? Well, buckle up, because this story is about to prove one thing. The only thing scarier than an HOA fine is a neighbor with paranoia, printer ink, and way too much free time. At first it was subtle. One morning I noticed a rusty SUV parked on the empty lot next to mine, idling like it was debating bad decisions. A few days later, a trailer. Then workers. Then lumber. Then a porta potty. Boom! Instant construction site. No permits. No announcements. Just wood going up faster than an IKEA bookshelf during a Black Friday sale. Richard introduced himself once. Briefly. Leathery face. Maybe in his 60s, and eyes that made it seem like my very existence was ruining his oxygen supply. He muttered something about buying the lot, in a quiet deal, and that boundaries would be finalized later. Finalized later? My eyebrow nearly left orbit. You mean the survey? I asked. Yeah, that. Then he walked off. No handshake. No smile. Just a man who already looked like he was rehearsing grievances for a courtroom drama. I knew the lot he bought was a mess. County records treated it like a cursed heirloom. Misfiled surveys, confused zoning notes, even an old map that listed it as a potential floodplain. But me? I was safe. I had paid for a clean title, and a survey team that had walked my land twice. My property was ironclad. Or so I thought. This is the story of how my neighbor made me lose my mind. Richard's house went up suspiciously fast, almost too fast. While my bill took months of permits and inspections and caffeine-fueled arguments with contractors, Richard's place shot out of the ground like mushrooms after rain. No notices, no stamped approvals, no county updates. Just hammering and shouting at dawn. And then the complaints started. Your fence is too tall. Your wind chimes are disturbing wildlife. Your driveway is too noisy when you back out. I even offered him coffee one time just to be neighborly. At that point, I knew I wasn't dealing with a neighbor. I was dealing with a walking stack of fake legal documents. The first real warning came when I checked my solar panels after a storm. One of my original iron survey stakes, the ones hammered in deep during the first survey, was gone. Not broken, not rusted. Gone. Like someone uprooted it on purpose, erasing a line in the dirt. When your neighbor starts stealing boundaries, you know something ugly is about to unfold. I quietly replaced it with a new stake. This time I GPS marked it. I didn't say a word. But I knew Richard was testing me. A few days later, he stormed over. Boots crunching gravel, manila folder clutched like it held nuclear codes. He didn't even say hello. You think you're slick, huh? He barked. He shoved the folder at me. Inside? Badly printed satellite images, toddler-level sketches with rulers, and survey summaries that looked like they'd been written on napkins. At the top, I kid you not, was a logo, Rocky Mountain Land Advisory. Underneath, in tiny font, not a licensed surveyor. Imagine spending years building your dream home, and then someone hands you a fake survey and says you've been stealing land 1 inch at a time. He wasn't joking. He was flushed, lip trembling, eyes wild. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a siege. The next few days, things got eerie. Cars slowed down near my driveway. Not tourists. Local trucks, SUVs. Even a Subaru with an HOA sticker. People were watching me like I was a criminal. One neighbor, Marcy, whispered at the mailbox. Richard's been telling everyone your house is illegal. That you knew all along and just hoped no one would notice. I laughed nervously. News to me. Her face went serious. He also said he might have to take drastic action. That's when I realized Richard wasn't just waving fake papers. He was rewriting reality, and he was shouting louder than me. That night I pulled out everything. The survey, the certified plat map, the county letters, all rock solid. Still, I felt it, that knowing dread when someone's lies start sounding louder than your truth. So I called the original surveyor. Ellis, a no-nonsense guy who remembered walking my land 5 years ago. North line dispute? I asked. He snorted. Hell no. That line was clean as glass. Remember that big boulder? We triangulated off it. Nailed it. That boulder was still there. Scarred, unmovable, solid. Unlike Richard's grasp on reality. I wasn't about to let paranoia erase my house. So I called him back up, Raymond Vogel, a second-generation surveyor known for being brutally thorough and allergic to BS. That's when the real story began. not with hammers. But with GPS, drones, and the truth waiting to be nailed into the dirt, Raymond's crew didn't mess around. They showed up with GPS tripods, drones buzzing like angry bees, and enough fluorescent flags to turn my land into a neon porcupine. For 10 days they measured, mapped, and double-checked every inch of dirt between my fence and Richard's half-baked kingdom. At first, I watched nervously from the porch, sipping coffee like it was holy water. Then curiosity got the better of me. I started pacing the property lines with them, noting every stake they hammered in, every satellite ping logged. On day 4, Raymond squatted by the southeast corner of my fence, staring at the soil like it had personally betrayed him. When a surveyor mutters, "Ha, on your land," it's never about wildflowers. Finally, after 10 tense days, Raymond spread his report across my kitchen table like a blackjack dealer about to take all my chips. "Your house," he said, tapping the map, "is right where it belongs. Not 1 inch over." I exhaled so hard I nearly knocked over my coffee. "But here's where it gets spicy." He pointed at Richard's lot. "This is a problem. According to the GPS-certified overlay, a full 26 feet of Richard's house, his deck, part of his living room, and even his tool shed was sitting smack on my property." I blinked. "You're serious?" He nodded. "Not just serious. Legally explosive." Turns out, while Richard was screaming about my gutters, he had built half his own house on land that wasn't his. And it got worse. Raymond flipped to Richard's permits. They weren't just sloppy, they were fraudulent. He had filed using an old 1999 plat map that wasn't even county recognized. He told the department boundaries would be updated after construction, which is legally speaking as possible as mailing your taxes in with monopoly money. This isn't just delusion, it's fraud. I sat back stunned. Richard hadn't been fighting for justice. He'd been gaslighting me while squatting on my land. I blinked. "So, I own part of his house." He noted congratulations. "You're now the reluctant landlord of his living room." I laughed. It was either that or scream. That night I went into full detective mode. I pulled up county permit databases, cross-checked coordinates, and even found Richard's scanned plot map. It looked like it had been drawn on a diner napkin at 2 a.m. by someone who'd had too much whiskey, but the real kicker? His so-called surveyor wasn't licensed. At all. Richard hadn't just crossed the line, he bulldozed through it with fake paperwork and hoped no one noticed. Then came the 2:43 a.m. incident. My phone chimed. Motion detected on the new trail cam I'd hidden near the boundary stake. I opened the feed, and there he was. Richard, sweatpants, hoodie, flashlight in one hand, crowbar in the other. The footage showed him yanking my freshly planted stake out of the ground, tossing it into the woods, and then muttering into his phone. His voice was grainy but clear. "If this guy doesn't move his damn house, I'll tear the whole thing down myself." I swear to God, me, watching the video. Well, at least he's consistent. Fraud by day, vandalism by night. I saved the video in 3 places: local drive, cloud, and an encrypted backup. You don't take chances when your neighbor thinks he's auditioning for a demolition derby. By sunrise, I had 2 things. 1, a migraine the size of a boulder. 2, video proof of my neighbor vandalizing property and making threats. I called my attorney, Beth. If Raymond was a nuclear warhead, Beth was the trigger. She was sharp, fast, and allergic to nonsense. "Beth, I've got proof. Fake permits, GPS surveys, and Richard playing lumberjack with my property stakes." Beth replied, "Send it all, and install more cameras." People like him escalate when cornered. If you think the midnight crowbar stunt was bad, wait until you hear what I found in his past. Out of curiosity, and maybe spite, I Googled him. Richard Muller, or rather Richard Troer Muller. Turns out he had owned property in Utah a few years back, and had left a trail of chaos there too. I found a neighborhood forum thread titled, "Muller sued for harassment and land disputes." My jaw dropped. Dozens of comments accused him of boundary harassment, removing survey stakes again with a crowbar, and filing fraudulent complaints about sheds and gardens. He even lost a small claims case for trying to enforce HOA rules he didn't actually have authority over. After losing, he sold his house and vanished. He didn't just move states. He reinvented himself. New spelling of his name, same old obsession with boundaries. When I sent Beth the Utah court documents and forum screenshots, she practically purred. Her advice? Install more cameras, so I did. One disguised as a sprinkler head, one hidden in a birdhouse, one under the porch eave. And my personal favorite, a decorative lawn owl that looked dumb, but had night vision eyes sharper than a hawk. I said to Richard, "Congratulations, Richard. You just made me invest in bird-themed surveillance." Finally, I printed out Raymond's notarized survey, laminated it, and nailed it to a post right where Richard had ripped up the stake. Beneath it, I stapled the county plat map and a bold note. Any attempt to remove this marker will be considered criminal trespass. Property owner, G. Ellis. If you thought the crowbar incident was peak crazy, you're wrong. Because Richard wasn't done. In fact, he was just getting started. When Richard realized his midnight crowbar routine hadn't scared me off, he escalated in a way only Richard could. Theatrics. First, strangers started showing up, cars idling near my driveway, locals whispering at the gas station. Then, one morning, I found a man in khakis photographing my house. Independent assessor, he explained. Private client. He didn't say who, but I didn't need a name. When men in khakis start photographing your house, it's never for Zillow. Beth had seen enough. That afternoon, she filed the lawsuit. Unlawful encroachment, fraudulent permitting, destruction of property, harassment. And the cherry on top? The time-stamped video of Richard yanking out my boundary stake at 2:43 a.m. Beth said, "Judges love video evidence. He's cooked. Court isn't like TV. There's no swelling music or dramatic gavel slams. It's dull carpet, dry legalese, and people mumbling into microphones." But when Richard walked into the courtroom flanked by two men carrying an oversized tube of technical documents, I knew he planned to make it a spectacle. Judge Ramirez, a sharp-eyed woman with a voice like a scalpel, called us to order. Beth opened with calm precision. She laid out the survey, GPS overlays, and of course the crowbar footage. She slid the flash drive across the table like a poker chip. Judge Ramirez raised one eyebrow. "Do you have a copy for the court?" Beth: "Yes, Your Honor. Time-stamped and geotagged." Richard shifted in his seat, jaw tight. His turn. He rose like he was about to defend himself against treason charges. "Your Honor," he boomed, "this entire complaint is based on manipulated data and a smear campaign against me. My home is not in violation of any boundary, and I have professionals here to prove it." Professionals? Spoiler. His experts made the Three Stooges look credible. The first expert shuffled up to the stand, wiry, greasy-haired, briefcase older than him. He introduced himself as a real estate boundary consultant. "Beth, are you a licensed surveyor in the state of Colorado?" Him: "No, but I have 20 years of experience." Beth: "Certified by any geodetic organization?" Him: "Not currently." Beth: "So you are not legally qualified to submit binding survey documents?" Awkward silence. "Not legally, no." Beth: "Motion to strike testimony as inadmissible." Judge Ramirez: "Granted." Beth leaned over and whispered, "That's one down. 2 more clowns to go." The second expert fared even worse. He strutted up in khakis and a golf shirt, announcing himself as a logistics analyst. Beth: "Are you affiliated with Mr. Mueller outside of this case?" Him: hesitates. "I handle payroll for his private consulting firm." Beth: "So you're his accountant?" Him: "Technically." The courtroom snickered. Judge Ramirez pinched the bridge of her nose. "Mr. Mueller," she said, "do you have any witnesses with actual land surveying credentials?" Richard puffed up, red-faced. "I have data. And reason to believe the plaintiff's survey was manipulated." Beth stood calmly. "Your Honor, we have licensed GPS-verified surveys, drone overlays, cadastral records, and video evidence of Mr. Mueller removing a boundary stake with a crowbar and threatening demolition." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Mueller, did you remove a boundary stake?" Richard: "I was correcting a fraudulent installation." Judge: "Did you threaten to destroy the plaintiff's home?" Richard: "I was speaking metaphorically." And that's when Beth slid the flash drive across. "Let's play the tape." The footage rolled on the courtroom screen. Richard in night vision green, crowbar in hand, muttering, "If this guy doesn't move his damn house, I'll tear the whole thing down myself. I swear to God." Silence. Then, Judge Ramirez: "Mr. Mueller, I strongly advise you to retain actual legal counsel." Richard: "I am representing myself." Beth under her breath: "Of course you are. things unraveled fast. A county inspector confirmed Richard's permits were based on obsolete data with missing parcel IDs. "If this had crossed my desk, it would have been flagged instantly," he said under oath. Meanwhile, Richard sat shuffling his stack of useless diagrams like a gambler trying to bluff with Uno cards. Outside, a small crowd gathered. Word had spread. Someone even wore a t-shirt, "My fence, my kingdom." Beth chuckled. "Looks like your story's going viral." Finally, the ruling day came. A crisp Colorado morning, sky so blue it looked fake. Inside, Judge Ramirez wasted no time. "This is not a simple boundary dispute," she began. "This is deliberate misrepresentation, illegal construction, and malicious harassment. The defendant submitted falsified permits, built a structure on land not his, and attempted to reverse the truth using intimidation and unlicensed testimony. The video evidence leaves no ambiguity." Richard's face drained. "If you thought fines were bad, wait until you hear what the judge ordered next. The court finds the defendant guilty of property encroachment, fraudulent permitting, destruction of marked boundaries, and threats of property damage. The matter of falsified permits is referred to the district attorney for criminal review." Beth squeezed my arm. This was bigger than we'd hoped. "Mr. Mahler is sentenced to 12 months county jail for document falsification, suspended pending 3 years supervised probation. He is fined $180,000 in civil damages and ordered to demolish all portions of his house encroaching on the plaintiff's land within 90 days at his own expense." Richard erupted. "This is outrageous. He manipulated the system." Judge Ramirez slammed her gavel. "One more outburst and I hold you in contempt. You've lived 3 years on stolen ground. You should consider yourself lucky." Beth whispered. "Lucky?" "More like bankrupt with a side of bulldozer." 3 days later, demolition crews arrived. They marked off 26 feet of Richard's house with spray paint. First went the deck, wood shrieking as it splintered. Then part of his living room wall. His shed collapsed under its own weight with a single push from the excavator. Richard? Nowhere to be seen. Word was he checked into a motel 30 miles away. The local paper ran the headline: "Architect wins landmark property case. Neighbor ordered to demolish house segment." Underneath, they printed a still frame from the night vision video. The comments were brutal. "And you'd think that would be the end, right?" But fate had one more twist waiting. Because Richard wasn't just about to lose his deck, he was about to lose everything. When the demolition dust settled, Richard's house looked like someone had taken a bite out of it and forgotten to chew. His deck, gone. His shed, rubble. His living room wall, patched up like a bad haircut. The value of his property nosedived overnight. But the real wrecking ball wasn't the excavator. It was the bank. Turns out Richard had mortgaged the place to fund his fake surveys and court circus. With the house now half demolished, its value tanked. Within weeks, foreclosure papers arrived. The property went up for auction. Beth spotted the listing and smirked. "Want a little poetic justice?" I bid just enough to equal a decent pickup truck. Nobody else wanted a house with a criminal record and missing limbs. My offer was accepted. Just like that, I owned the land Richard once swore was his. The first thing I did? I built a small wooden deck exactly where his trespassing deck had once stood. 10 by 10 feet. On it, I placed a single Adirondack chair and a sun umbrella. And in front, I bolted a sign that read, "This is what happens when you lie about boundaries." Property owner G. Ellis. Me. Sitting in the chair. Sipping lemonade. Comfort has never tasted so legal. And here's where irony turned into internet legend. A hiker snapped a photo of my petty revenge deck and posted it online. Within a week, it blew up on Reddit. By the time it hit Twitter, people were calling it the Ellis line. Neighbors started copying me. Signs sprouted all over. Respect the line or find the fine. Ellis line challenge. Come try me. HOA. Even the zoning committee invited me to speak at a workshop. I gave a 5-minute talk, people clapped, and someone handed me pie. As for Richard? Rumor has it he fled to Arizona, maybe under yet another spelling of his name. Roller, Muller, McBoundary. Take your pick. I don't think about it much anymore. Because when I sit in that Adirondack chair on the platform built from the ashes of his arrogance, I smile. Not because I won, but because Richard thought he could rewrite reality with a crooked map and a straight face. He forgot one thing. Property lines don't care how loudly you argue. They only care where the pins go.